Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Let's Play series of Train Sim World 2. So after much deliberation I decided to pick up the latest offering from Dovetail Games just to see what all the fuss is about. So first thing we need to do is actually create a profile. If the game will let me. There we go. And one of the big things about Train Sim World is that you can actually walk around as the driver, which is quite cool. I think it adds something a little bit extra. So we've got various characters to choose from, both male and female, which is good for the sake of diversity. So we'll just go with a standard male, I think, and we can have a neutral outfit, a US freight engineer outfit, London Underground uniform, and a DB uniform as well. I think we'll just go with a neutral outfit. So we'll create our profile and just enter my name in there. And Train Sim World 2 comes with 3 routes to drive. From America we have the Sandpatch Grade route. From Germany we have the Colne-Aachen route. And then from the UK we have the London Underground Bakerloo Line, which is the route that I'm most interested in, obviously being from the UK and also being a London Underground fanatic. So my plan is for this video to do the tutorial scenarios and the first scenario of the Bakerloo Line, so we'll see how we get on.
Welcome to Train Sim World 2, an immersive and highly detailed rail simulation featuring authentic routes and trains from around the world. You've just been awarded some action points. These are displayed in the top right corner of the screen and count towards your overall experience. It is necessary to be fully observant of the surrounding world. Practice by looking up, down, left and right.
Okay, so I'm using a combination of the keyboard and Xbox 360 controller to play this game. So I'm currently using the Xbox controller to move the camera with the right analog stick.
Besides operating trains, there are lots of requirements to navigate on foot. Try moving around now.
So I'm going to move around with the left analog stick. This isn't the fastest speed, we can speed up if we squeeze down the right trigger. So we'll just go to all the points that the game wants us to go to.
This is one of many interactives to be discovered, but not all of them will be as easy to find as this one.
So the next thing the game wants us to do is to get on the next northbound train, which is just coming in now. Now it's wanting us to take a seat, so we shall just grab the first seat.
You can pause the experience at any point and review previous and current objectives. Check it out now, then return to the game when ready.
So I'll just press escape to bring up the pause menu, and that shows us what we're currently doing. It gives us our schedule, speed and message log as well, and we can also save in the middle of a scenario as well. And the good thing about Train Sim World is that you can change all of your settings on the fly, so like notifications, we can also do controls, which is actually quite limited, I think. I don't think you can, I think all the key bindings are set. I don't think you can rebind them. You can also change your graphics settings, audio, and there's some advanced graphics settings there as well. So I am running in medium quality. I just fall within minimum specs to run this game. I've got an Intel i5 processor and an NVIDIA 1060 3GB graphics card. So I am expecting the game to lag a little bit, but we'll see how we get on. So we'll just come back out of that now. So now it's wanting us to enter the cab. So we'll do that.
A lot of time will be spent operating trains, so when ready, sit in the driver's seat.
So if I look towards the driver's seat and click Y on the gamepad, when the game will let me. I will say that the camera movement is quite sensitive on the analog stick. There we go.
A heads-up display has appeared on the right side of the screen. This is a guide to what the train is doing. This is the speed display. The white needle shows current speed. The red marker indicates the maximum permitted speed. This is the direction display. An arrow will indicate forward, reverse, and neutral directions. This is the power display. A number will indicate what position the power control is in. These are brake indicators. They show the state of various brake systems, allowing independent management of them. In the top right are the signal and speed limit displays. These feature an indication of what is approaching and countdown distance to when they will come into effect. Some of these displays can be hidden via the settings menu for a more challenging experience. This train is ready to go. Push the indicated handle all the way forward to get moving.
So the indicated handle is the traction brake controller, which also acts as a dead man's handle. And it's just simply controlled with A and D. So A to accelerate and D to decelerate. So we are going to press A to put it into shunt, and we're moving away. Speed limit is currently 30 miles an hour, so I'll accelerate up to parallel.
The Bakerloo Line runs for just 15 miles, but along that length it connects the suburbs of Harrow, the affluent districts of Maida Vale and Marylebone, and famous places such as Baker Street, Oxford Street and Piccadilly Circus. The trains that operate are the oldest on the network, taking their name from the year they were introduced, 1972 tube stock. They feature 7 carriages in 4+3 configuration. Congratulations! This is just the beginning of your experience. There is much more to be explored. Welcome to the London Underground. Join the ranks to keep millions of annual passengers moving between the suburbs and world-famous locations throughout central London. Take to the controls of the oldest tube trains on the network and convey commuters from residential to commercial districts across the city. Along the way, don't forget to place route maps, repair platform monitors, put up posters and restock newspaper dispensers. This is the Bakerloo Line.
Okay, so that was the first tutorial done. So we've got another tutorial to do now. So we will, I think it's start new journey. There we are. So yeah, this scenario will get us used to the 72 stock a bit more.
Welcome to your first day on the Bakerloo Line of the London Underground. Here you will be taken through a brief introduction on operating the 1972 tube stock that operate on this line. During this session, you'll be taken through the startup procedure, critical driving controls, and passenger operations at several stations. Head over to the dedicated train and climb aboard to get started.
Right, start off, I think the 1972 stock looks quite nice. Looks very highly detailed from first glance. So I think the modellers have done a nice job with it. But I think it's this train we want to go in. So if I press Y to climb up, and then the doors will shut when we set the train up.
This is where you'll be spending most of your time.
So if we enter the cab, and before we sit down, I would need to sit down so we can put the master key in and get the train up and running.
The train for operation.
So the control switch is down here if I use the keyboard, and then we want to move down. Press A, and we need to set it to on. There we are. Press and hold A. Move the control stick down.
Determines the direction of travel.
So we now want to press A on this one when the game lets us. And then we want to press S to put the train into Inter.
This train features a combined power brake handle. Set this as indicated to begin the startup procedure.
So we need to put the traction brake controller into emergency.
Set the brakes as indicated.
And we need to set it to off and release. And then we need to cancel the the audible warning reset with Q. And then we need to put it into the first brake position.
Train is now ready to depart. Set the direction selector and apply power to begin moving.
So if we put the train into forward gear now. And actually, just before we move, we need to set the lights for the passengers. So if I just get up out of the seat for a second. Okay, so I'll just get back in now. And we can now sound the whistle. Coming out of Queen's Park, the speed limit is 10 miles an hour.
Coasting is a method used to efficiently maintain speed and reduce component stress and maintenance requirements. Apply a small amount of brake force to achieve a comfortable and safe stop.
Just start to apply the brakes now. Stop where the game is telling us to.
Take a quick glance of the platform to ensure all is safe before unlocking the doors.
So coming over from Train Sim Classic, or Train Simulator 2020, which is a game I'm very much used to have been playing for the past few years. If I press T, that only brings up the timetable view. So what I'm going to do to open up the doors is I'm going to press left on the D-pad on the Xbox controller. And then in a moment I'm going to press right to close the doors on the D-pad.
It's time to get going. Set the doors to locked.
Or left again, sorry. There we go. we go.
The next station on the line is Kilburn Park, where we will perform a passenger stop.
So we're going to accelerate up to 35 miles an hour now. As opposed to the national network, once you see a speed sign on the London Underground, you can immediately accelerate, whereas on the main line you have to wait until the rear of the train has passed the speed board before you accelerate.
To achieve a comfortable and safe stop.
So we're in step 1 of braking.
Take a quick glance at the platform to ensure all is safe before unlocking the doors.
So I will press right on the D-pad to open up the doors on the right. And then I'll need to press right again to close the doors on the D-pad. On the Bakerloo Line, or indeed all the underground lines, the trains are driver only operated.
Set the doors to lock.
So the drivers use platform mirrors and monitors to aid with the closing of the doors.
Proceed to the next stop at Maida Vale unguided this time and see how you get on.
Mirrors and monitors are used on the Piccadilly and Bakerloo lines. On the other underground lines, the drivers use in-cab monitors to open and close the doors, which displays the output of station CCTV cameras via a radio aerial which is placed in the track, also known as the hotlink, I believe. And here we are at Maida Vale.
Good work. That concludes all of the basics of operating this train.
And there we are. That's the end of the tutorials. So yeah, both did a really good job of getting me familiar with how this game works. So I'm quite happy with those tutorials. So we will now put what we've learned into practice by doing a scenario. Okay, so the first scenario involves us taking this train to Queen's Park, We are currently sat outside London Road Depot, which is at the southern end of the Bakerloo Line. There's a spur of track that goes away from Waterloo, and that track takes you to this little open air section. This is one of two main depots on the line. The other is at Stonebridge Park at the northern end of the line. So first thing we need to do before we move off is, if I just quickly exit the seats, what we first need to do is set our destination blind for Queen's Park. So there we go, we've got Queen's Park on the blind. Then we need to turn on our saloon lights. There we go, so we've got the saloon lights on. So I'll just close the cab door and we'll sit in the seat again. Then we need to move the traction brake control to the off and release position. And departing London Road Depot, the speed limit is 5 miles an hour, so snail's pace. And it's going to be like this until the next signal. So it's going to take quite a lot of skill and patience to keep the train at 5 miles an hour. But we do need to stop here. Okay, so now we need to drive up to the signal that is protecting entry to the Bakerloo line itself. So again, the speed limit is 5 miles an hour, and I believe we are going to be encountering a severe falling gradient. So we'll basically be adjusting the brakes. I will apologise if you hear the fan of my computer running in the background. It is working. It's actually working quite hard to run this game. As I said, I've only got an i5 processor which is clocked at 3.1 GHz. The recommended system requirement is that you have an Intel i7 clocked at 3.6 GHz. And an NVIDIA 950 graphics card or above. So really I'm okay for the graphics card. I think I just need a newer processor for it to run a little bit more better. But the machine I've got at the moment is only about 2 years old, and I've got no intention of upgrading my processor just yet. So the gradient's currently at 3.3%, which is quite steep. We've got about 140 odd yards to go until we have to stop at the upcoming signal. So we just need to wait for the signal to clear now. So the signal has cleared, and we can now proceed to our first station stop at Waterloo. So I will say at first glance the tunnels actually look quite good, and I like the level of lighting as well, which I think is fairly realistic. So the speed limit is now 15 miles an hour. It's now jumped up to 20. And here we're at Waterloo, so I'll just open up the doors. And our next station stop is at Embankment. And here are Embankment, so we'll just open the doors on the left hand side now. And we'll close the doors again. Speed limit is currently 30 miles an hour. Next stop is Charing Cross. distance between Embankment and Charing Cross is rather short. Shortest on the line. But it's not the shortest on the entire underground network. The shortest distance between stations is on the Piccadilly Line between Leicester Square and Covent Garden. Of course, you will notice that one of the monitors is out, and that is one of the interactive. So I'm not really fussed about getting out at the moment. My plan is just to do the drivable scenarios and then probably do a separate video. There is an on-foot mode available within Train Sim World 2, so we will explore that once we've done the drivable scenarios. So speed limit's just gone down to 20 miles an hour. Next stop is at Piccadilly Circus. And here we are at Piccadilly Circus. So Piccadilly Circus is quite unique because it has this open vista at the end of the station. We can see the other train coming in. And this was brought about as a result of platform extension work, so they could take slightly longer trains. Next station is Oxford Circus. So the speed limit has just jumped up to 30 miles an hour. However, in a few hundred yards it's going to drop back down to 20. So I'm just going to cut the power off actually. And slow down. The HUD is radically different to that of Train Sim 2020. So it's just getting used to how to use it. Actually coming in to stop at Oxford Circus now. which is the station where we started at in the tutorial, in the first tutorial. I like that the station clock is synced with the clock on the HUD as well. That's a rather nice touch. That's a thing that's been also been a thing in Train Sim 2020 as well, where the station clock is synchronised with the HUD's clock. So the next stop is Regents Park. So we can now accelerate up to 30. And here we are at Regents Park. I apologise if I haven't been talking much throughout, because I've just been concentrating on trying to do as smooth ride as possible. So the next station stop is at Baker Street. Famous for being the fictional home of Sherlock Holmes. And as we come into Baker Street Station, you'll notice that there is a Sherlock Holmes motif on the tunnel, on the platform tiling. I don't think the train was supposed to sway that much going around that curve. It's a bit disconcerting there. Just pull up a bit to the monitors so we can see. And then open up the doors. The next station is Marylebone. or Marylebone, whichever way you prefer to pronounce it. I've always known it as Marylebone. One thing that you probably might have noticed as we came into Marylebone is the title Great Central, which was the original name of the station, which is still reflected in the platform tiling. Great Central also reflected the name of the railway company that opened the mainline station of the same name, which is now the terminus of the Chiltern trains from destinations such as Birmingham and Aylesbury. Next stop is at Edgware Road, which is separate from the Circle Line station of the same name, though it is I believe interchange between the two is actively encouraged on the tube map. Obviously the video screens don't show the train and the platform, as that would be rather graphically intensive. And you'll have probably noticed that the mirrors only reflect the lights. So again, that would to reflect the whole train, that would also probably take up a lot of resources. So, but I think it's quite cool that we've been able to get the reflection of the lights in at least. Next station stop is at Paddington. And the speed limit's just dropped down. Wasn't really paying attention to the HUD there. Down to 20. I think I've encountered a bit of a bug with the HUD. It hasn't totally shown up, so we can now lock the doors. Yeah, it's sort of half, the load doors instruction only half faded in there, so I don't know what the crack was with that. So next up is Warwick Avenue. We're only a couple of stops away now until Queen's Park, where our service will terminate. I think so far I've rather enjoyed doing this so far. I know the sounds of the 72 stock haven't been completely up to scratch, but Dovetail said in one of the preview streams is that they couldn't source the sounds due to the current global situation at the moment, which is understandable. But having said that, I do think they could have took the time to engineer slightly better sounds, particularly like the flange squeal and that. I think that's a bit naff, to be honest. I mean, the traction motor's been reused from the Class 455 from Train Sim 2020. I'm not really all that fussed about, to be honest. One thing I've also noticed is that in a minute when we close the doors, the door close button will press a few times on its own when I've only pressed the controller once. So I think that's another little bug that needs looking at. So our next stop is Maida Vale. So yeah, I am going to cut Dovetail Games a little bit of slack for the sounds in this situation, but I do think it could have been engineered a bit better. I mean, if Armstrong Powerhouse were able to emulate the old brush traction package for the Class 465 networkers, or indeed the cooling plant sound of a Class 50 locomotive, which hasn't been heard since the 1970s, I'm sure, you know, so if Armstrong Powerhouse can do that, then Dovetail should be able to have been able to emulate some better sounds. There we go. But anyway, here we are at Maida Vale. Next stop is Kilburn Park, which will be the last intermediate stop before we terminate at Queen's Park. If you're wondering what these two boxes are here for, the one at the top is the digital voice announcer, which isn't simulated in this, which is actually quite disappointing. I think Dovetail could have, because the announcements are quite a big thing of the London Underground these days, so I think it would have been nice, even if they couldn't get Emma Clark to do the announcements, they could have probably had a member of the dev team record some announcements and have that working. I think that would have been quite nice. And the box below is the Connex radio system, which is the London Underground's equivalent to GSMR or National Radio Network on the main line. So basically the driver will key in an area code to keep in contact with the line controller. In this case, the line controller of the Bakerloo Line is situated at Baker Street. London Underground have complete jurisdiction of the Bakerloo Line between Queen's Park and Elephant and Castle, and for the bit between Queen's Park and Harrow and Wealdstone it is signalled by Network Rail at Wembley, but London Underground can still view the progress of their trains from Baker Street. On the left we just passed a rail gap indicator where the three lights illuminate when traction power has been discharged on the line in front. So the Bakerloo Line is split up into sections, so if I need to isolate a section for any reason, the rest of the line can still operate. So we're now back out into the open air at Queen's Park now, rising up out of the ramp. Bakerloo Line trains use platforms 2 and 3, whilst platforms 1 and 4 are used by London Overground services between Watford Junction and London Euston. And here we are at Queen's Park, where the scenario will end. Okay, and that's the end of the scenario. So I actually quite enjoyed that. So I hope you've enjoyed my first video on Train Sim World 2, and I hope to be producing more within due course. I think my plan is to do the Bakerloo Line first, and then I'd very much like to try out the German high-speed route and the Sandpatch Grade after that. And then once all that is done, I would actually quite like to do a proper video review of this game and tell you what I think about it. But apart from that, thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you've enjoyed it, and take care.